Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Travel Talk Tuesday. I'm still stuck in Middleburg, but we're going to be talking tonight about Sicily, right smack dab in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. So thank you guys for joining in. I appreciate it. Sicily's quite a bit off the beaten path when you think about Italy, because for the past 6 weeks or so, we've been talking about destinations all over the peninsula of Italy. And last week we kind of finished up kind of the off the beaten track locations of places in Italy outside of my normal Best of Italy tour. Well, now we're really going really far afield down to the island of Sicily. Now, if you're coming from the United States in a normal year, there's a couple of ways you can get there. There's no direct flights to Sicily, but you can fly into probably the best place is to fly into Rome and then take a short flight, 1 hour flight to one of the main cities, Palermo. Or you can fly to Rome. And then if you want to do some sightseeing along the way, like some of my Best of Southern Italy tour or something like that, you can take a fast train down to Naples, and then you can take a slower train down to the very toe of the peninsula. And the train actually boards a particular type of ferry. And the train just drives onto the ferry. The ferry goes across to Sicily, and it's about a 30-minute, maybe not even that, 30-minute float across the sea there. And then the train drives off the tracks and onto the tracks in Sicily, and heads either to Palermo, the main capital city of the island, or down to one of the other cities on the far east coast. So it's pretty easy, and every time I've done it, I've flown from Rome down there or flown from Naples down there. But I've been watching this CNN series about Stanley Tucci, who is an actor I've yet to see in a film, but everybody tells me he's in them. Doing Looking for Italy. And when he was going to Sicily, he actually did the train. So if I ever get back over there, or when I get back over there, and have some time, I may try that train track as well. So tonight, let me get my map back up here so we can begin this series here. And you can see that Sicily is an island, and it's got 3 points on it. One, if you look on your left side of your screen to the west, where the word Trapani is, that's the city over there. And then you see Taormina, which is up on the top right, and then another point down below that where Syracuse is. So 3 points. The Sicilian dialect for the nickname of the island is Trinacria, and that means 3 points. And so you'll see that, and you'll see a symbol of sort of like a mermaid octopus with 3 legs all over the place in Sicily with Trinacria, and that's the symbol of that. So without further ado, we're going to start in Palermo, which is the main capital city, and look a little bit at that. In the meantime, I've got some risotto on the stove, so I'm going to kind of look at that as well. Good morning, David McGuffin here from Palermo, Sicily. Part of Italy, but way down south at the very tip. Here in front of the cathedral, and we're going to do a little tour around the city today, looking at some of the sights and sounds of this unique destination. Again, as I said, the Cathedral Square, built in the Renaissance time. Hope you enjoy your tour here in Palermo. Your adventure starts right here with David McGuffin's Exploring Europe. One of the major theaters, opera houses in Europe, in Teatro Massimo, here in Palermo. all of these cities have neighborhood markets, and Palermo has 3 of them, and they go on for miles in the city center streets. Palermo is not the cleanest city in the world. As a matter of fact, it's probably the dirtiest city I've ever been in. It compares sort of to Naples a little bit, but this is one of the markets where this guy just rolls in a cart with a grill on it and starts barbecuing, and then puts it on a stick and hands it out to you for €1, and it's a good walk-away lunch. This in the back streets of Palermo, and you can see dumpsters abound, and graffiti does it well. I always tell people when we go to Palermo, it's a huge city, and it's known for mafia and for crime back several decades ago. But it's being cleaned up as far as that goes. But there is petty theft, and gosh, with every trip I take, I wear a money belt, but for sure you wear one here. Couple more scenes. This is the major square where there's a major fountain there and 2 churches in the area. This is a mosque turned Christian church. And inside the church of Monreale, which is a shrine up on the hilltop above the city of Palermo. And just so you get an idea, I'm standing overlooking Palermo, which is below my left shoulder, and then the sea. And then that cliff beyond there is another destination we're going to visit called Cefalù. That's you can see, but it takes about an hour and a half to drive to. But really, once you're outside of Palermo, everything is the countryside. And so you just get away, get out, and explore. So maps coming up next, I think. So we're in Palermo, and a few years back, I was on a trip in February with my friends Janie and Meta. Just 2 ladies were along with me, and we happened to be doing this whole tour route here. And we arrived at our hotel, and they were experimenting with a cooking class. And so here's a little bit of the cooking class, and what I'm preparing for dinner tonight as well is called arancini, which is rice balls filled with several types of filling. So this is what my cooking class and what I'm preparing for dinner tonight.
Quindi che fa? Lo scavi e poi lo rifai? Sì. Diced.
Al ragno. Quindi il coltello, soprattutto quello grande.
Fammi vedere come si fa.
Ok.
The chef here, the young lady is named Juicy, and she
Today
is
we're in the
in charge and animated,
kitchen
I can tell you.
of the Hotel Ambasciatore. Chefs in the back, we're learning to cook the Sicilian recipe arancina.
Aggiunge un altro poco d'acqua. Water.
So there are 2 stuffings, a ragu, so a meat and tomato sauce, and this is how you do this with beef and turkey. Put in a mixture of onions and carrots that were diced.
Typically we would think of either much fine, I can do that.
Everyone knows risotto,
25-30 cl.
and if you put saffron in it, it
Facciamo
turns yellow.
evaporare l'alcol.
And it's definitely not as, saffron, the spice is not so expensive in Europe as it is here.
But not so much. Only half a glass.
Ok. Direttamente dalla bottiglia. Però loro quali utilizzano?
So to that meat and vegetable mixture, you add breadcrumbs, white wine, and then a tomato sauce.
Adesso la signora
You can just use tomato sauce out of the can or the bottle. And the second filling is ham and cheese. So you make a roux
No, allora,
and then a bechamel,
we use just
diced ham,
because it is, yes.
and mozzarella cheese.
Fuoco, la farina, io sempre mescolando. You keep the pan.
So
So off the flame.
butter
Yes.
and flour,
Aggiungere farina.
farino,
Sì, sì.
burro e fiorino.
50 e 50 per
50-50
500
mix.
ml di latte. Okay.
I don't know.
And it's a paste.
You
Maybe a
add
base for
yes.
everything. Many things.
Okay, io ho ordinato
Make it
sauce.
thick in it, yeah.
Rimettere sul fuoco
Ok.
e aggiungere sempre.
I can tell you what, I was challenged quite a bit because there was one young lady that spoke some English,
Frusta,
and
the
so
name of
between
this, I don't know.
her broken English and my understanding a little bit of Italian, we got the gist of what Juicy was telling us to do.
Okay, whisk.
Whiskers.
Aggiungiamo il
So in that
latte
roux,
a poco.
You add milk poco a poco, little by little, and whisk it.
Just milk. Ecco, brava.
Brava.
That means, here you go. Good job, lady. Brava. That's Meta. At that time, she was about 85 years old and kept up with me every day. And this is the risotto. They pour it out, spread it out, let it cool a little bit.
Bolle.
See?
Ok?
For the bechamel.
And once the milk goes in, it kind of has the consistency of mashed potatoes. Not quite that consistency, but.
Ok, posso spegnere se non si brucia.
That's your
And this is a trick I learned, and I even learned it, tried it today, and it definitely keeps the elements from separating, the
Cosa
oil and the
succede?
milk from
Perché si
separating.
mette questo?
Ok.
Ok, perché si mette?
Perché?
Per non creare la pellicola.
Non create, it doesn't color.
100 grams. 100 grams
And
of
so that
Parmesan.
risotto,
25 grammi.
you put shaved Parmesan and butter,
25 butter.
mix it together with your
Tagliato
hands,
piccolino.
and it's ready to go.
Butter. Yeah.
No, perché noi diciamo parmigiano, all'estero.
Un altro po' di sale.
Just a little bit of salt.
And a little more salt and pepper.
Un altro po' di pepe.
Also pepper.
No, quello fresco
Tutto bello, deve essere tutto bello amalgamato. Allora,
So
per
this just come
500
together. What
grammi
happened is we let the
di
rice cool down.
becciamella
The room
Tutto bello, it's all good.
e 2 mozzarelle fresche,
quanto è provato? Facciamo già 200 grammi.
200 grammi di mozzarella.
They call their ham like I had yesterday for Easter lunch. That was the day before yesterday for Easter lunch. Prosciutto cotto, fresh ham, as opposed to prosciutto crudo, which is the cured prosciutto that we know. Now, I have to watch this because the
Aggiungere
rice balls I have right now are pretty big back here behind me.
and then you fill it with some.
But I think he's putting a whole lot more stuff
Go ahead and try.
than I did as well.
Vada,
Aspetta.
Just a moment. Jane, look.
Prendere altro riso.
Brenda, you put the two together.
Non è facile,
Se non basta, coprire, ok?
And then
E fare la
pasta is, if after
Molto
enough, you put one more on top and then you
si
have
deve
it.
coccolare.
So it is about the size of a
Ok?
baseball.
La dell'arancina.
croccante, io non so.
We're making the crunch.
Sì, yes, more crispy, yes. More crispy, yes.
So add a little milk, flour, and breadcrumbs.
Chissà, c'ho sempre dura, se devo fare una frittata, aggiungere il latte. Duro?
Yes, doable. Yes.
Yes.
Perché? Perché l'hai messo in Because you wait until for 1 hour.
Ok. Farina? Uovo? Deve essere tutto omogeneo.
And
Oliva.
breadcrumbs.
Sì.
Mm-hmm.
Uovo. Mollica.
One time of flour, the time of breadcrumbs.
Okay.
For very crispy.
Mm-hmm.
Poi
Gricia usano pure la padella. But you have the
io deve coprire tutta
the
l'intera
oil,
arancina.
yes.
Covers it all.
Perché? Ora vedi tu se ce l'ho.
Sì, la vediamo, lo spento.
Allora, perché poco alla
She
carta
is ready.
assorbente?
Okay, it's perfect. DTM, do you remember we from next to the one? They need to go.
Tutti bravi.
This is palm oil?
More or less the same color.
Vegetable oil. Okay.
Sì.
So maybe I should say it's a round ball and sort of like a potato shape or concave. So there you go.
Bravi.
Oh, you're pretty big then.
Bravissimi.
We spent the last hour and a half making this Sicilian dish called arancini, which is fried risotto type rice. We have it filled with ragu sauce, which is here, and then we have some filled with mozzarella and ham. It's fantastic, and just because we had an opportunity to make this ourselves makes it even better. So, buon appetito from Palermo. This is David McGuffin saying your adventure starts right here. David McGuffin's Exploring Europe.
So real quickly, I've got my second batch of risotto going. It's not quite as yellow as Juicy's risotto, but I think we got the good consistency. So I'll put that on the pan. I want to show you earlier today, I made a few of them and we're going to fry them up a little bit later. I think you can see those. So here's the cone shaped ones and the round ones. And I think now that looking again, they're about the same size. So that's what we're going to munch on. That should be enough for 2 or 3 of us to eat, actually, seeing all this. Now, let me tell you, we're going to leave this area of Palermo, and then we're going to head on out to the east in the direction of Trapani, the peninsula out there. But we're going to stop right here along the way, about halfway, because for me, Sicily has some of the best preserved Greek temples in all the world. You think about going to Athens and you go to the Acropolis there and see the Parthenon and some other temples in Athens, and you might see a shell of a temple in the case of the Parthenon with no roof or anything else. But in Sicily, which the Greeks ruled, I'm going to refer to my notes here, from about 800 to 200, let's say 800 to 200 BC, they built temples all over the island. And because subsequently there were 5 other civilizations that came in and ruled the area and preserved them, either by converting them to Christian temples or temples to other gods. They were never destroyed or cannibalized to make other temples. And so this one is in an area called Segesta. And so here's a little bit about Segesta and the Greek temples on the northeast side of the island.
Hi, David
west side
McGuffin
of the
here
island.
from the ancient site of Segesta in Sicily. This ancient Greek temple here behind me was built by, actually not the Greeks, but the Elymians, which was an indigenous group of people who settled here probably around 1200 BC. It's thought that this temple was built around 430 to 420 BC with the help of some artisans actually from Greece, from Athens. The temple, although built out of sandstone in the traditional Greek style, Doric Greek style, actually was never used as a temple because the Elamians did not particularly worship in the way that the Greeks did. This was a fantastic place, a fantastic visit that gives you an outlook on the entire region north of Palermo, all the way out to the Tyrrhenian Sea.
The countryside is just beautiful. This time of year, from January, it's green, lush, artichokes are in season. This was in February. And so it's green and lush up until about mid-June. Then things turn brown, wheat harvest and everything else. It's a beautiful place.
From Segesta, in the region of Trapani, in Sicily, your adventure starts right here with David McGuffin's Exploring Europe.
So from there, we go to the area of Trapani, and up on the hillside is
David McGuffin
Syracuse.
here, exploring the far western coast of Sicily. We're driving along en route to a little hilltop village called Agrigento, and you might can see it poking right up above the mountainside in that destination direction. They tell me in the summertime this place is bustling with activity. It's just right for me now. This is supposed to be the most famous sweet shop, cake shop in all of Sicily. It's called Moria. We're standing on the ramparts of a Norman castle, 750 meters above the sea. It's just an amazing place. You're not going to get a big group tour up here.
The Normans were in the Middle Ages, 10th and 11th centuries.
Your adventure starts right here with David McGuffin's Exploring Europe.
Then turning the corner and heading south into the actual Mediterranean Sea is Agrigento, another Greek site.
Hey, David McGuffin here. Today we're at the Valley of the Temples near Agrigento, Sicily. And this is an area of 6th, 5th, and 4th century temples, Greek temples. Some of the most well-preserved temples in all the world. This is a one section of the column with the dowel holes in the center, dating from the end of the 6th century BC. And we know for sure that this is a temple dedicated to Hercules, the oldest one here. Your adventure starts right here with David McGuffin's Exploring Europe in Agrigento, the Valley of the Greek Temples.
I mentioned earlier that there's been 5 or 6 civilizations that have used this island because it is strategically located right in the smack dab center of the Mediterranean Sea. It's the largest island in the Med. And consequently, if you look at that map, if you think of a map of Europe, you see, Spain, France, the Greeks, what we know is the peninsula of Italy, North African, and all of that is kind of right there, easy access within 80 to 120 miles from the island. And so what happens is that even during the centuries, we think the first settlers were there around 2000 BC. And those settlers were the indigenous people on the island. And some of them were even right after that, even in that same era, were the Phoenicians, which were from Greece as well, from what we now know as Greece. And after the Phoenicians settled and kind of overtook the land, the Phoenicians kind of disappeared. Who knows? No one knows really what happened to them. But then the Greeks settled there, Then the Romans settled. They were there for 500 years for their empire reign, 500 BC to say 500 AD. And then the Goths and Visigoths, the barbarians, kind of took over and controlled the island. And then there was an Arab invasion from what we now know as North Africa and Morocco and southern Spain. And they were there. Then the Normans came in around the 1066. So we're talking about late 11th century and so forth. And then France took over, the House of Aragon, and Spain took over. Gosh, Spain took over in the middle 1400s. And then France took over in the House of Bourbons. And then finally, Italy was united back in the late 1800s, and it finally became part of Italy. So the people that live in Sicily are definitely not Italians. They are a mix of all cultures. And you go there, and when they're not speaking Italian, they're speaking their own dialect. Their own dialect can be, it's different on any corner that you're on. And so you can't understand it. And even a fluent speaker of Italian has difficulty understanding the dialect in any given place of Sicily. So it's just a mix, but it's a hodgepodge. And because of that, it's fantastic. So during the Roman Empire, in the 400s, one of the emperors decided to build his summer little villa down here in just beyond Agrigento. And it was called the Roman Villa at Casale. So let's take a look at that, because it's now famous for the mosaics that have been intact there for centuries.
Hey, David McGuffin here at the Roman Villa Casale in February, and it's snowing in Sicily. What a great adventure we're having here. Freezing to death because we're not prepared for it. Hey, but your adventure starts right here with David McGuffin's Exploring Europe. In Sicily, look at all this snow. Broad sunshine. Snow flurries in Sicily. The Roman villa, known as Casale, is thought to be the country retreat of Marcus Aurelius Maximus, Rome's co-emperor during the reign of Diocletian from AD 286 to 305. As you can see, there are rooms that are just loaded with unspoiled mosaics from the Roman era. In the 12th century, there was a landslide that covered the entire villa with 30 feet of mud, which preserved these mosaics for 700 years. It wasn't until the 1950s that a serious excavation began to unearth these beautiful mosaics. In recent decades, the whole complex has been covered by wooden roofs to protect the mosaics from the elements, making it a great experience for us to go in and see things as they were in situ. From the Roman Villa Casale, your adventure starts right here in Sicily with David McGuffin's Exploring Europe.
From there, we continue to the farther southeast destination we visit, which is in Syracuse and Ortigia Island.
This is the Greek theater dating from 480 BC before Christ. Here in Syracuse, looking out almost to the east, the water and the bay, the harbor. Pretty amazing, carved totally out of limestone into the side of the hill.
Also in this region, these kind of puppets are famous. and it's interesting to go to a puppet show.
Di questo. Sopra questa. Fuori, fine. Guardate indietro, siricani.
The winner
guardate
is-
il botto Dio, se ne avete uno, perché la vostra ora è giunta.
Let me pause there for just a minute. I see my friend Ramona's online today and watching us, and she lived in Syracuse and in that area for quite a while back in the day. I don't know, Ramona. Would you be willing to give us a little recap of how you ended up there? And I know we traveled together in I think 2017. I'm on. I could. There you go.
Later, okay.
How you doing?
Well, just for reminiscing.
Yes.
I'll tell you a little story about it, but go ahead and finish up. I'll tell you later.
No, you go ahead, Ramona.
Oh, first of all, I want to tell you about the rice balls. I have
Okay.
never seen the rice balls that you were showing up in Palermo being made. I had daughters 1 and 4 years old when we moved there. And of course, the restaurants don't open till, at least back then, till like 9 o'clock at night. And here you got these 2 little children to be fed. I used to go to little shops or delis or something there and buy those rice balls for them. And that's what they would have for their dinner.
You're right.
Actually,
Yeah.
we'd go earlier to a bar to get an ice cream cone. So, no, my husband was working on an expansion. He was an engineer with Exxon. And an expansion of a refinery, I think is at Ragusa. It was relatively small refinery there. And we lived in Syracuse for 1 year. And I went there, found 2 people who spoke English. That was a butcher who had lived in Australia. And then there was another lady, her daughter was going to preschool with my daughter, and she had actually grown up in Tripoli. And of course, the Italians had all been kicked out of Libya, and most of them did come back to Sicily, where they were originally from, and lived there. Or maybe they never lived any place in Italy even, but that's where they returned to.
Mhm.
Many of them from Tripoli had learned to speak English, but the native Sicilians did not speak English. There was near our neighborhood, there was a lawyer who spoke limited English too.
Yeah. Well, I recall, I know you've traveled with me several times, but the time we were in this region, I think we even were able to kind of drive by where the apartment that you lived in, and you were able to reminisce about
I
that.
don't know if you have anything to say. It was right next door to the new library or art museum, and right up the street from the big cathedral.
Right, with the big white dome top. Yeah.
Yeah,
top. Yeah. Well, listen, thanks for joining in and sharing those personal experiences. I know I learned a lot from you as we traveled there too, because you had more experience and recalling memories when you were with us. So great. Thanks for signing on tonight, and good talking with you. I'm going to move on and try to get moving on here. Thank you, guys. At the end, if anybody wants to chime in, please feel free to do that. So we're leaving Syracuse, going all the way up past Mount Etna to Taormina.
In the sunny south of Sicily, from the small little town of Taormina, a resort.
And unfortunately, on my first trip to Sicily, I didn't know how to pronounce that town. It's Taro, Taormina, not Taormina or whatever I'm saying. Okay, I know what it is now.
Town in the summer. This main square, which would normally be bustling with people, is pretty much empty. Let me give a 360-degree span tour here in Taormina. Looking back behind me, you maybe can
see those clouds back there? That's
that
Mount Etna erupting.
Is covered in clouds in the back. On the cobblestones on the ground are volcanic ash from the eruption of Mount Etna. Moving on along is a
Hey, Alicia. I didn't know that.
Up there.
Good to know your grandfather was born down there.
Church of the Rock. This here is our hotel, and I'm standing on the hotel balcony. Great little city to be in. Your adventure starts right here with David McGuffin's Exploring Europe in the south of Italy. Ciao.
Okay, from there we're gonna go way back over here, almost to Palermo, to a village I went the very first time. Charlotte and I were kind of exploring Sicily on our own, and it's Cefalu, and it has a huge big rock sticking out of the ocean, kind of an island called La Rocca, the rock, go figure. Not Dwayne Johnson, but La Rocca. And so here's a couple of little episodes from Cefalu. Hey, good morning. You're from Sicily. I'm in the town of Cefalu. It's around the bay from Palermo. Just a small little fishing village. Nice little medieval cobbled lanes and some shops and restaurants. So we had a great time here last night, sitting around the cathedral in a little cafe and having dinner. Today we're going to have a cooking lesson here and have dinner in one of the restaurants here in Cefalu. This is Sunday afternoon, about 3 p.m. It's not very, very quiet here in Cefalu. Siesta time. And your adventure starts right here with David McGuffey's Exploring Europe. Behind me here in the distance is one of the prominent landmarks in Cefalu. It's known as Il Rocco, or the Rock, and it's got some ruins on it from the Greek era and also from the time of the Normans. So pretty impressive. It can take about an hour's walk to the top. We've got some great views. We're going to attempt to take a walk up to the plateau of Il Rocco. Your adventure starts right here with David McGuffey's Exploring Europe. So I got my genders mixed up. Not La Rocca, feminine, but Il Rocco. There's a La Rocca elsewhere in Italy as well. But here in Cefalu, Il Rocco. So we go, you see Taormina, we go to Catania. And Catania, any of you guys who may know people that are in the Navy or pilots and have been in the Navy or friends or whatever, there's a naval base right near Catania, and gosh, the name escapes me. That's what happens when I don't travel very much. But it's a big naval base, and a lot of people that go there are confined to that base and don't even get off it to go sightseeing and whatnot. But what is it?
Sigonella.
Sigonella. Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue, but I could not remember it. But yeah, and we drive by it all the time. It looks kind of like any other armed forces bases anywhere else in the world. Got 8-foot high chain link fence with razor wire around the top and whatnot. But people say, "Oh yeah, I've been to Sicily. I've been stationed in Sigonella, but I didn't even hardly get off the base at all to do anything, or I flew in there and were there for 6 weeks and left." But Catania is the nearest city, and if you go in there, gosh, that is like an Italian city on steroids. It's just a little Palermo, and so here's my closing video on the daily market in Catania. Okay, the Catania fish market, getting near the end of the morning, and so this is what's left after 3 hours of selling. You see that word, castrato? Means no balls.
Stati Uniti.
Stati Uniti.
See?
Obama.
Obama, Florida. See? See.
That's the only English he knew at the time. Obama.
So hang on to your hat, tuck away your money belt, and enjoy the experience here at the market in Catania with David McGuffin's Exploring Europe. Hey, this is where your adventure begins.
Well, I spent most of the day compiling all this video, and just like any other one, I found that I had way more content than I had time for, but I really had a good time compiling it all and putting it together for you. So I hope it gives you a little bit of an idea of how to get off the beaten path in Italy and visit Sicily. There's some great destinations, and we have a tour that you see I've shown time and time again on tonight about traveling around the island, and it's just a blast. It's a great time and just a totally different experience. So if you have been to Italy before and you visit the big cities of Rome and Venice and Florence and Milan, and you want to do something a little bit different, go to Southern Italy or go to Sicily with me. It's a great thing. Any of you guys that are online, do you anybody want to chime in, have anything to say or whatnot? I haven't opened it up in the last few weeks, but some of you chipped in and said, I'd like to say a word or two. So speak up if you want to. And this happens every time. Nobody has anything to say.
I can tell you a few little stories. You were talking about how well the temples are preserved and everything. I think a lot of that has to do with the lack of pollution. I was to Athens, Greece in 1965, and to see pictures of the Parthenon today, there is no comparison.
Wow. Yeah, that's great, Ramona.
Sigonella. I bowled at Sigonella, and we were having a luncheon one day, and so we were bringing sandwiches. Well, we went to the butcher shop, bought a loaf of bread and sliced it. Somebody says to us, "How did you cut that bread?" I said, "With a knife." My store-bought sliced
right, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Or something and you saw the laundry hanging out. That's the way I did mine because we had no clothes dryers. They said it rains all the time, or it's dry all the time here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we had 2 months of rain that January and February, and I had a 1-year-old child in diapers, so my dining room became a drying room.
Yeah, there were no disposable diapers back then, right?
Not that you wanted to use.
Right. Yeah.
But you know what I thought of them? I said they were oversized Kotex.
Thanks, Ramona. Anybody else? Well,
can I ask you one question?
Yeah, sure.
The Greek theater in Syracuse, is a lot of that complete? They were working on it a lot when we were there.
Right. I think when we were there, it had an orange or pink, some kind of tarpaulin over the area of it. Right. And that was in 17, I think, 2017.
Like that.
I've been back, and it's been kind of restored, but it doesn't look any different than it
really
has for the past
they do Greek
10 years.
They did do Greek tragedies there once every 5 years.
Right.
That was going on when we arrived. And,
Yep. Yeah. Those theaters are all over the place, and they're still intact, whether it be in Taormina or even in Greece. There's plenty of them around, and also in let's say in even up in Italy, in Verona and whatnot. So they're still effective, and they're just constructed 100% acoustically correct. So if you're standing on the stage and you're in the top seat, you can hear the actor there on the middle of the stage. So it's just amazing how the Greeks and Romans were able to do that. Speaking of Greek, the next 2 weeks, we're going to cross the Mediterranean Sea and visit Greece. And I've got some exciting news that I think Greece is going to be the first country to open up to American travelers. that we can go back and forth freely and that attractions will be open. Rumor has it that they're going to open up their doors and everything in Greece on the middle of May, about the 15th, 14th of May or so. And I'm watching that with very carefully and keeping my ear to the ground. And if that's going to happen, I'm going to talk to my friends there who are coworkers and do the same thing that I do. And if that happens, come the 1st of June or so, the first week or two of June, I'm going to try to arrange a tour, a 1 week, 8-day tour to Greece, because gosh, it's Charlotte and I is one of our favorite destinations. And I know I say that over and over again, but if we go somewhere for 9 nights and stay at one time in one place, and that's Greece, that's more than we've stayed in any one place in all my time of exploring Europe. So we love it. The food's wonderful. The destination is great. The history is fantastic. So I'm going to talk about Greece the next 2 weeks. And so be on the lookout for some news coming through the newsletter. And next week, I hope to have some news also about some trips to Greece. So if you're itching to go somewhere, or if you're sitting on a credit with exploring Europe, or you just want to go, we can make a deal and maybe work that out come the first couple of weeks of June. So keep in mind, though, with the same thing I've said over and over again, we're not going anywhere until we can travel and experience the country and the locale like the locals do, and make sure that all the attractions, museums, historical sites are open as well. But news is developing every day, and I'm excited about that, so keep that in mind. Okay, I think I'm going to just bail out here and say thank you so much. We're going to fry up our arancini and have a big feast of rice balls. So thank you guys for joining tonight, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.